This podcast is brought to you by Infinite Resources, a local staffing agency connecting diverse job candidates in central Iowa companies.
I'm your host, Abena Sankofa Imhotep, and welcome back to Black and Privileged in America podcast. Catch Black and Privileged in America podcast on SoundCloud and on our very own platform, amplifieddsm.com. And please follow us on our Facebook page. Black August is separate from Black History Month in February, which is a federally recognized celebration that calls on Americans, all Americans, to reflect on how African Americans have shaped U.S. history. Carter G. Woodson, the son of former enslaved people, is largely credited with the February celebration. In 1976, Negro History Week expanded into Black History Month. Black August, which also came about in the 1970s, specifically honors political prisoners, freedom fighters, and martyrs of the Black freedom struggle, according to the Center for Constitutional Rights. Black August is a call for reflection, study, and action to promote Black liberation. So, when a racialized Riverfront brawl in Montgomery, Alabama went viral on social media on August the 5th, 2023, it ignited a firestorm of commentary and hilarious memes. A band of pontoon boaters who were white violently attacked the co-captain of a riverboat who was Black, and subsequently many hands were thrown. Was the incident on August the 5th just another viral brawl, or will it go down in history as a pivot point for the culture? Today, helping me unpack the Montgomery Brawl are our favorite best friends, artist, illustrator, and proud dad Ryan-Christopher, and musician, producer, actor, and proud dad Madison Ray. Welcome to the show.
Hey,
glad to be here.
Thanks for having us.
I'm so glad you're here. So, glad you're here. Your first time on the show. It's been a while since we've talked to one another. What have you been up to?
A lot of life has happened.
Yeah. Like what? Tell me everything.
We don't have the time for all that.
Well, tell me a little bit.
Let me hit you with the highlight reel.
Yeah.
On the dad tip, we're about to start high school.
Oh my God.
All these really big milestones and all of the rest, like surreal that we're at that stage of our lives just collectively.
High school, what does that look like for kids now? I guess I'm a little out of date. I don't know what that looks like.
I'm learning that too. Like I haven't been around high school since I was in high school. Like it's a brand new day out here.
Yeah.
So we're kind of just getting used to like, okay, what does that look like? Of course the ask when you're leaving middle school, going into high school, the responsibilities, what you're learning, kids are having more autonomy in how they control their own schedules and the clubs they want to be a part of. And just kind of getting that sense of autonomy. I think that's the biggest thing is just like, what does that look like now, right?
Right.
Because it's like you're dealing with like social media, you're dealing with these relationships and communication skills that are like still developing, right? All of the weird pressures of like, listen, I was raised with the internet, not inside of it. I'm just trying to keep up.
So speaking of the internet, we see the first day of school pictures. Is that a thing for high school students? Do they take the first day of school? Is this my outfit? Mom, Dad, take my photo.
Is that really up to the kids?
Right. That's more for us.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like I just need that little snapshot. I've never been the one to like make the weird prison photo thing. I don't do that.
I did that one time.
I just get a good like portrait as we're like leaving the house. It's like, all right, we're going out. Let's check the fit. Hit me with a pose. She'll give me the turn and look, and I'm like, perfect, click.
Oh.
Let's go, first day.
Love it.
It's just like, those little memories like that I think are obviously really important. But yeah, I just try to just go along for the ride and follow her lead, like what is it that we want to do?
Yeah.
Who's treating you right? Who's treating you good? Where are the danger spots? What do I remember and what do I know? And how do we navigate that? So that's like the big stuff. Professionally, we just put our debut album, my band, The Finesse.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. We dropped our first label album, Abraham, on Cinco de Mayo.
Wow.
And then toured Japan right afterwards. The day it dropped, we hit Tokyo, and we were there for 3 weeks doing that thing. So
now you did mention, your grandfather's name is Abraham.
Yeah,
is that
yeah.
an ode to him?
Yeah, no, he passed. He passed in 2020. And because of the pandemic, we couldn't, do any, because he's an East Coast guy, and he was a military man. So it came with all of those military honors and all those things.
Yeah.
And of course, with everything locked down, we couldn't do any of that. So we couldn't give him his proper send-off. We couldn't go have a proper funeral. There was a lot of bonding that was happening, via Zoom and these kind of like family calls.
Like most people.
Yeah. But also,
we had a few Zoom dinner parties during the pandemic.
That's right.
So yeah,
That's
I got
right.
you.
Yeah, we got to stay connected somehow. So, how we use that to help our grieving process. For me, it's always turning to art and creativity. Like that's an outlet to like relieve some of that pressure because those feelings are really complex.
Yeah.
Because Abe wasn't necessarily like the best grandfather or father figure, but even in spite of that, like there's still an example there.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
And he did his best to care in the way that he knew how, for better or for worse. So when you look at that, that informs the relationship that my mother had with other men, my father, and then my relationship with him and my grandfather. It's like you start to understand. Yeah. As you get a little bit older, you get that long view perspective.
For sure, there's that thread that weaves it all together.
Exactly. Now we're talking about generational trauma. Mm-hmm. Now, as a father myself, so it's like I said, there's all those tiers of like, what did my dad not teach me? What am I trying to work through because they weren't the right kinds of male role models that they could have been or should have been?
Yeah.
But also at the same time, like without them, we're not here. So like,
and this album helped you unpack and work through all that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Because it's about it's about our relationships with other people. Mm-hmm. All that stuff. It's all intertwined, right? So like, whether it comes to like your love life, your sex life, sometimes these are one and the same, sometimes they're not. You know what I mean?
True story.
How do you raise your family? How do you, where do you, like, especially from that narrative of like a black man who snuck into the army to fight in World War II underage and then spent the rest of his life serving the military.
So it sounds like there's a book coming.
They keep telling me I should write it down into a book. Maybe I should take the hint.
Okay. Wow. Well, I'm glad you had a busy summer and you've been working.
We struggle, we suffer, but we turn into something beautiful. That's all we can do.
You. That's amazing. What about you, Ryan? What you been up to?
Fatherhood, absolutely. Madison has one going into high school. Mine is officially going into middle school.
Oh, middle school.
So we just went and got his haircut. He had to be fresh for all the new girls and stuff he met yesterday. Like walking into school.
Got a little clean.
Yeah, he had to get a little clean.
Yeah.
And I'll absolutely be taking the pictures because that's the only day that he's going to care. After that, he's going to be right back to graphic tees and basketball shorts. He did not inherit my love for sneakers and matching clothes. So, no, we're just out here living that dad life. And then my little one, she's going into second grade. She's hyped.
Oh, my goodness.
She's back in class with one of her friends. So, yeah, dad life, work stuff, just trying to thrive in that position there, teaching the new hires and whatnot. As far as artistically, I've just been wasting potential, basically.
I mean, to put it bluntly.
Since the pandemic started, I have not been doing much as far as that outlet goes. Trying to get back into things, but I got to a point where I was burnt out. Like I had been doing a lot for a while, and it was a grind, like day in and day out, just trying to level up.
Right.
And then once I got to that point where I felt comfortable with it, like all of a sudden it felt like work, and then I kind of backed off. And so now that I've taken that 2 years to be lazy, for being real honest, it's not feeling like work as much anymore. So we're getting back into it.
I think that's an important thing. Sometimes you have to love it.
Yeah.
You got to love it. And it takes sometimes stepping away from it to love it again.
Yeah, no, that's true. And like I did some projects in there. Some of them I was proud of, some of them not as much. And I'm like, I don't want to be the guy that's putting out work that I'm not proud of.
Yeah.
So let me take a step back. And I did. And now I'm feeling recharged and things are moving and working on some original stuff and things like that. But that's in the pipeline. You'll see that soon.
Okay. I'm excited for both of you. I'm actually super duper thrilled for both of you. So, okay. So full disclosure, I know the two of you from, life in general, and the fact that you had an amazing show, you were our best friends, our favorite best friends on a show called Drinks with Friends.
Yes.
Listen, what's up? What are y'all doing?
We keep getting that question. I mean,
Let me unpack some stuff real
go
quick.
ahead.
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah.
So we got into podcasting as it was really starting to like really blow up. Now everyone has a podcast. So from my
I
perspective,
know, right?
no, and I think it's amazing because the thing is, there's something about us as human beings. We love to eavesdrop on conversations. Like everything we watch is really just other people talking.
Yeah, we're nosy.
Movies, TV shows, interview shows, podcasts. Like we just love to just like watch shit go down, right?
Yeah.
So that to say, at the same time, it starts to overcrowd, and then it becomes like, well, then what is our offering to the table? You know, part of it was also, I think, the struggle of like pandemic life.
Yeah.
You know, like how can we do this safely? How can we do this responsibly?
Yeah.
You know, like we had shifted kind of style and format and tone a bit and tried a new kind of concept. And the thing is, that's the other part of it too, is that like to your previous point, there's that space where it's like when it's a couple of friends getting together and talking, it's one thing, but if you want to grow, then it starts to turn into the business side of it.
Yeah,
right?
and that work is overwhelming.
And it needs a team.
Yeah.
And it's exactly, it's not that it's necessarily too much. It just becomes this thing where it's like, now you got to start counting on other people. And not everybody has the same passion or the same vision or the same availability or whatever it is, right? It's like all that thing where it's like, cool. So if you need to get like film and video involved, okay, that's one thing. Sound and editing and all those mixing issues, like that becomes a thing. You know,
Catering
like
to sponsors.
yeah, if you're trying to get sponsors, and so you can, you know, like make it worth your while.
As I check my Post-its to make sure that they're in place.
That's right.
Yes,
That's
yes,
right. You know,
yes.
You know, like it's like all those things, like finding guests can be really hard, you know, because it's like, when are you available? When can we get, you know, then you have to get the team available to get it. It's like all these logistic things that I think for me, I just kind of took a step back and was like, all right, we can always come back to this.
Right. There's a season.
So let's take a breath.
Yeah.
And like figure it out. And when the time is right, we'll get back together and start having these talks again.
And if we're really unpacking stuff too, we're two only children, and we have a really hard time relying on other people.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh gosh, I never thought about it like that.
We're two only children raised by single mothers. Like independence is deeply ingrained in both of our personalities.
Oh, it's lifestyle.
Right. And so when you get to that point where you do have to rely on other people and then other people let you down, it's really easy for us to just fall back. Like, why put myself in that situation where you're going to disappoint me when I could just take a step away and figure it out and come back and do it fine on my own. So,
But I will say on a positive note, like on a personal level, like our relationship has gotten actually a lot better since we stopped. Because
wow.
Because what we were doing is
So
we were
was
holding
it stressing your relationship?
No. But
Okay.
we would hold our conversations for like live mics.
right.
Got it.
So we're not talking as much because it's like I don't want to lose anything good or a great idea.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
because we
remember
were
that.
just
That's really good
because
for
we were
the
just
show.
hanging and just shooting the breeze and just like
Yeah.
talking story or whatever.
Right.
So like in not having that, now we just like hang out and just do what we always have done since we were kids.
Yeah.
Which has just allowed us to, I think, at least for me, I won't speak for you, but like it's been able to kind of spark that joy and that thing about having those like good relationships again.
Yeah, and it brought back organic conversation. Like,
Yeah.
You know, it's no longer like feeling like you necessarily have to perform because, you know, like people come and like for me, it's like, oh, Ryan, what's your latest hot take on this thing? And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm full of them, but like,
Right.
you know,
Performative conversations.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, geez.
just
And it's
let-
draining.
Yeah.
We're not thinking about it. You know, like if you're doing a thing every week, you know, and you're like, all right, how do I come up with another banger and have insight and
Do you think that's
you know.
what your audience wanted from you? Because as a person who was a devoted listener, okay, listen, everyone, I'm a devoted listener. Even now, I'm anxiously awaiting the return of some manifestation, some iteration of Drinks with Friends. I think I just wanted to hear you. I don't think I wanted all of the stuff you're talking about, although that may have been what you felt from whatever.
Right.
I just wanted to hear you because you're interesting and you had a different way of looking at things. And you seemed to be friends, like for real. And that was refreshing.
Well, yeah, I mean,
It didn't seem performative, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
like we never had to work at that. Like, I mean, we
Yeah.
were best friends since we were 7 years old. So like the conversations that people were in on were legit for the most part conversations that we would have anyway. So I really appreciate that compliment. But then it comes to a point, but like it almost took me back to high school. Like when people would see us and they'd be like, oh, it's Madison and Ryan and Madison.
Oh,
and
okay.
so like then it got to the same thing where it's like you see one of us out and it's like, well, where's the other one? Like what's gonna happen? And it's like, yo, like we're not each other's sidekicks.
Did you feel lost? I mean, did you feel like you were losing your own autonomy, your identity a little bit?
No, because I mean, we were never fake in what we were doing. So no, I don't feel like we ever lost our autonomy in that sense.
Yeah, same.
It just like it just became like an expectation, you know, like anytime 80-35 would come around and people would be like, yo, Ryan, like how you feel about 80-35? Then I have to go on this whole tirade, which I have no problem doing, but also it's like, yo, I've got like my kids are with me. I can't go off on 80-35.
Can't be cussing around the babies.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is stood out to me? I mean, there's like 17 things that you both have said so far that have stood out to me. But one of the things that you said, Ryan, was the fact of being raised by single mothers, being only children, and having a certain level of independence that, Madison, you said was a lifestyle. That's kind of like the way you live. And I want to broaden that perspective as we transition into the conversation about Montgomery, because I think one of the most beautiful things I saw. Now, let me preface what I'm going to say by saying I do not advocate for random acts of violence. I hope that's clear. I do not
really
advocate for random
qualifier.
acts of
Yes.
violence.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, one of the most beautiful things I saw when I stumbled across the video of the altercation in Montgomery, Alabama, was one lone black man who at first, and this is my first take, you know, seeing the video, one lone black man talking to a boater. I think he was a boater at this point. I'm like, I guess he's a boater. He doesn't have a shirt on. He's wearing swim trunks. And he starts getting beat up.
Right.
And then other people join in. So that independence, or I think that independence that we all try to have as black people, was supplemented by interdependence when the cavalry came, and I felt this sense of like joy. So tell me, just start talking to me about the video. How did you see it? Who shared it? When did you notice it? What were your first thoughts?
All right, I'll jump in on this one.
Please, go for it.
First off, shout out Dante Powell, a friend of ours, former
yes,
guest
he's
on the show.
hilarious.
He's the reason I saw the video.
Okay.
He shared it, and then I was like, I gotta send this to people. This is amazing. What is happening right now? And then to kind of go off of what you said, I kind of had the same feelings. Like you have this one guy, he's out here, he's alone, and all of a sudden he gets attacked, and he throws up the hat, which is now like the new like raising of the flag. Like it's a new, it's a
call to action
thing.
Let's
yeah,
go.
That's right.
That
like,
is the
hat is in the
universal
air.
black call to action now.
The Bobby Shmurda hat toss, like it's just like the culture is cyclical, and it really was like the head nod personified. You know what I mean, like especially being in the Midwest, being in Iowa, like anywhere you go, you see another black, brown person, whatever. I'm giving them the head nod. I'm acknowledging their existence. And for me, like seeing this all go down was like that, like just times a million. Like all of a sudden, it's like you see somebody that needs you, and the thought goes out the window. You know what I mean? Like you just jump in and you do what you need to do to make sure that your kin, for lack of a better word, is okay. You know, like it was a deep and powerful thing. Before we even get into like the comedy aspect of it, it was just cool to really see people come together. It was beautiful.
It was
like,
unifying
it was
in a way that was kind of freaky. Like, wait a minute. In my mind, it's the cookout.
right.
And I feel like if I saw a black person on the side of the road that needed help, I would hop out my car and try to help them.
Yeah.
We've done that.
Yeah.
The three of us have done that.
We
Do you remember
have.
when we're at the African restaurant,
And that
do
motorcycle.
that
and
for real?
that motorcyclist
We did that.
hit that lady or whatever,
Shut
and
the front
then they were
door.
starting to get into a thing. And here's this big biker, like angry white man, and this little
Oh my God, I'd
like this
forgotten.
little black lady who might be an immigrant because I think she had a head wrap and the whole thing. And like the three of us stepped
Right.
into
We
that
sure
and we're like,
did.
so what's going on out here?
Everybody cool? Do we need to call somebody?
Right,
And,
so
like,
I just want to make sure everything's cool. So if things escalate, that
I forgot about that. And I'm
you
glad
ain't
they
alone.
brought it up. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my God.
Listen.
Okay, so let me reframe. I know that if I saw something going down, I would be unctioned to help someone.
Absolutely.
But it was great to like see it on a massive scale.
Yeah. And that, so that part I feel like was really important. The fact that you had, we live in this age now where at this point, ignorance is only willful.
Yeah.
Right? Like everything is recorded. Like so unless you just don't believe your own eyes about what happened, like, and then that's a choice. Like you're being willfully ignorant. And this did not allow people to do so, because the other same people would be like, oh, we're supposed to be better. How does violence fix things? Blah, 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 blah. No, you saw 6 I'm assuming inebriated Caucasian people.
Right, because you'd have to be drunk to behave that way.
Right.
You
like,
have to be.
You've been out on a boat all day. You're probably sunburnt. You know what I'm saying? Like, who knows how many natty ices you've had or whatever they drink in Alabama. I don't really know. Right. You're a little sun drunk, amongst other things. And like, so you see these 6 people jumping on one guy, and like everybody knows that that's not right. It doesn't matter how you paint it. It doesn't matter what was done. Like 6 people on one person is wrong. So,
and as the facts were coming out, we learned that this gentleman, the black guy, he was the co-captain of the riverboat.
Right.
Right. So he got off the boat to ask those pontooners to move their boat because the riverboat needed to dock there.
So there was actually more. I watched an interview where they had the white captain, like the other captain, call in. It was on some radio show to explain what had happened. And so apparently, this dude had, like, they were on the ferry, right? They'd been out on the water. There was 200 some odd people on the boat. They come back, and this pontoon is parked in the way. So the captain was on the loudspeaker telling these people to move their boat.
Yes.
And they're, like, giving him the finger, telling him no. This went on for, like, 40 minutes, and then finally they just walked away from the boat. And so the captain sent out his co-captain, was like, yo, just go move the boat. Like, apparently that's what boat people do. Like,
it's pretty
in the
normal.
way.
Yeah,
you
like
go
moving a
out,
boat's not a big deal.
That's so dope.
Right. Yeah. So but
if you won't move it, we're going to move it for you.
We got you.
Right.
No worries.
But so apparently what happened then is that these people, the boat owners, the people that were out partying on the boat, come back and they see the co-captain like walking away from their boat, and that's when everything popped off. And then, you know, you have the rest of it, the kid jumping in the water. Shout out that kid, by the way.
Let me tag in here.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I don't know where I caught it first. I'll just go ahead, because I think it was like, it hadn't quite turned into the thing.
Yeah.
Because like I caught clips of it and I was like, what is this?
I mean, did you feel like, I kind of felt like when you saw the video, I assumed, well, first thing is I don't want to watch it because it might be someone getting hurt.
Yes, absolutely. Because unfortunately, I've been in this place where like I've been conditioned to expect to see violence on black and brown bodies.
Right.
And I just don't have the spoons for it. You know what I mean? Like I don't need more of that stuff to just keep me awake at night. You know what I mean?
I
Drama
do,
porn.
yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. And I get that people really, you know, enjoy conflict and it does something, you know, there's that bloodlust animalistic part of humanity that just like thrives on that. I can't. I choose not to. So yeah, my first kind of thought was just like, eye roll. Nope. I don't need this, you know? But then I saw him throw the hat in the air. You know what I mean?
That doggone black hat.
Like
as
as I'm trying to like remove myself from the thing, and then I see that hat go up, and I go, "Hold up!" You know what I mean? It's like it was the call to action.
The hat never came down.
Right?
It's still up there somewhere.
Jesus caught it.
Jesus caught the hat, not Jesus
Anointed
take the
that
wheel.
cap. Listen. But yeah, and then from there, like it was just that thing of like, oh, so he throws this hat, and then as I'm like, wait, what? I see the boy swimming. I mean, it's just like it's like watching a really good movie or seeing a really good painting, and you're unpacking like all of the details. You're like, what's that in the corner? Hold up, who are those people? And as it like kept going, I was like, oh, this is turning into a damn Royal Rumble over here.
It is, yeah.
And then the man hit somebody with a chair. You know, it was just like thing after thing after thing that like I think and this is what I think is what made this moment so such a lightning rod, is that I think we all had that passive expectation that it was going to go one way, and it went the exact opposite. So it wasn't necessarily just like the victimization of this older black man, but it was actually what happens when you know, a group of people show up to like defend someone who's in trouble. The thing, I think there's something that was refreshing about that, which is why it really got all our attention to go, oh wait, is this what solidarity can look like when you like support people when they're in trouble? Is this what it, you know, when you're not just gonna just give them the head nod and just mind your business and keep walking? You know what I mean? Just like those kinds of things where it's like when someone's actually in a tight spot and we actually can pull together and do something, less people that look like us end up getting hurt. Also, so I think there's something about that in its DNA that just I think makes that so special because of just we're not used to seeing those situations turn out that way.
Right. You know? Very true. Very
true. I agree with that. One thing too, and I don't normally do this, but can we give out a shout out to proper policing?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, the policing. I don't know if I'm ready for a shout out, but I certainly will acknowledge
an
acknowledgement.
Proper policing. Like you had multiple law enforcement officers there that saw something happen. They knew nobody was going to die. There were no weapons drawn or anything like that. They let these people, like basically it's like, listen, I'm not about to jump in here about all these people scrapping until it gets out of hand. And that's exactly what happened.
Exactly it. They show up because then it escalates even further. Right. Once the cops start like exercising anything.
Mm-hmm. And nothing. They stood back and let it happen until that lady got whack-a-mole, and then they're like, "All right, all right, you got it."
Even the dude who hit her was just like, "I'm going to jail."
Like, I'm going to jail. Like maybe that was a little much.
It was almost like every action that was taken by someone who was black is an action in my mind that we imagine we would take.
Oh yeah.
Like someone imagined I would hit him with a chair. No, I swim across the ocean, or
there are songs about those literal things.
Exactly. We manifested that somewhere in the ancestral realm, and it all just happened.
It's about that culture.
It's true.
And I mean, there were a few things that leading up to that event on August the 5th. For instance, the week before, there was a Trump rally right there in Montgomery, which in my mind would empower a lot of people who are anti-black. Yeah. So there's that in the atmosphere, as well as several hours before the brawl, as it's been coined.
It's a Montgomery Mollywop.
The Montgomery Mollywop. Yeah. I've got one that I want to use too, but I want to frame it first before I drop it on y'all. But several women who were on the riverboat had done ancestral veneration at the site before that event took place. So they were honoring and giving homage to the ancestors who had been enslaved and brought to that port several hours before that fight took place. And so I wonder, what that experience was like. I think the pictures that I saw on Facebook showed about 30 black women dressed in white with candles and fans. And it was just beautiful to see that they were venerating their ancestors. And again, that port is one of the largest slave ports in American history. Yeah. And the fact that this happened there during Black August, I mean, is that significant at all to you?
I mean, how can it not be? And then you look too, I mean, even digging even deeper, because Montgomery or Alabama in and of itself is also going through something now. They just had that Supreme Court case where they're like, hey, black voters have been disenfranchised and y'all have been doing them wrong. And now we're saying by law that you have to give them another district. And Alabama is fighting it like, no, because then if we have another district, we're going to lose. Like Alabama right now is so afraid of like this like physical embodiment of black power, and this was just another thing that piled on top of it. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen with the state and how they react to all the different things that have been happening in the name of equality. Like it's really going to be a fun thing to watch unravel, I'm hoping.
Are enough people paying attention to that? Because I mean, honestly, I don't know how many people know how significant Alabama is.
Well, I mean, I never thought about it really until this. But I'm also a person who likes to read. So when this happened, then all of a sudden I start doing the extra research and I'm looking into the history of it, and like all this, that, and the other. So just with my personality type, I ended up learning a lot about my own history just because of all this that happened. So yeah, absolutely. I feel like it's a lightning rod for the culture. Like people are going to be taking a closer look, paying attention. Like you can even look and see like what happened with Aquaman or Michael B. Phelps.
That's my favorite one, Michael B. Phelps.
I'm also a fan of Scuba Gooding Jr. That's a good one. But like the kid jumped in the water with his phone in his pocket, and his brother was like, "Hey, I see y'all like giving big props to my brother. Here's his Cash App, send him money for a new phone." And now this kid's college is paid for. Like they asked for $1,000, and he's over $100K in donations.
Wow!
Just from the community coming together and like donating to this kid. Like so, yeah. It really felt like the winds were changing after this.
I think people are they're gonna engage wherever they're at, right? There are those who are gonna that make the jokes.
Right.
They're the ones who
Yep.
are going to put a beat to it. They're the ones that are going to
The creativity we have.
Right. And, and I think that's exactly it. It's like we all engage in it in different ways. So some will see the educational opportunity. Some people will see where it fits inside of the historical narrative, the social dynamic, and where all those threads, the way we can take the anthropology side of it and understand where all of these threads start to intertwine. But that's exactly it, right? That's the breadth of us as a people, is that we all engage in different ways from our different perspectives.
Yeah.
And so like there are casual people who just make some jokes about it, say some stuff about hitting people with chairs. And then, and then there are others that will understand that like this is also part of a bigger conversation, especially when you talk about politics and policy. When I say politics, I mean it in terms of policy, not necessarily this weird kind of tribal thing that we're in, the cultural war stuff.
God. Yeah.
But that's exactly it, right? You talk about, the American South, and like my people come from Louisiana. That's part of the diaspora of our people, right?
Yes.
Like as we then spread throughout the rest of this land, like understanding that like the culture there, like Black folks that are still in the South, it just hits way different, especially, if you're here in the Midwest, right? Or like in these red states, or even in places like New York or California, like the big metropolis areas, versus like what Black Southerners are as far as like history and culture and tradition, right?
And it's almost like the further we migrate away from the South, we migrate away from those values and those understandings as well. And I find that to be unfortunate.
Right. A lot of the stuff that I hold dear is what like not my grandmother, but my great grandmother instilled into the family. You know what I mean? Like the things that weirdly, the stuff that's lasting is the stuff that still comes from that space. None of the stuff that we've done as we've moved away or turned into other kinds of folks, or whatever our degrees or our life paths take us on. Like the stuff that lasts are the Southern traditions, because that's just like it goes so much deeper for whatever reason. Even if we can't necessarily like put a finger on what it is, like those are the things that feel good. It feels safe. It feels like home. It feels like grandma. You know what I mean? Like it's a home cooked meal. It's a sense of duty. It's an honor code. It's all of these things about how we have socialized and how we live our lives.
Yeah,
it's that informed from that space, right?
Those unwritten rules that we have.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, and then we understand as like this is how we are.
Yeah,
but it always has this root to like the South, and then you look at like spaces like Atlanta, which I argue is setting an entire revolution for the state of Georgia, right? Especially with what's going on with the former president and all of the indictments that are coming out, right?
Oh, listen.
Talk about Tennessee and those
Fonnie Willis
and the Justins that got kicked out of.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? So there's like all this stuff where you see this revolutionary push of what young Black Southerners are doing.
Yeah, and this is a time for a shout out.
Yeah.
Fonnie Taifa Willis. That's all I want. Say her name. Say her name.
And protect her.
Yeah.
Like, cause man, like
daughter of a Black Panther.
See, you know what I'm saying? Like when we really start to do the work and you understand where these threads, because we make this joke about how we're like play cousins.
Yeah.
We've known each other our entire lives. We have, but understand that like my family came out of the South around the same time as the Tindrell family did.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so there are relationships that are like multiple generations deep, like on a national level, where there is that thing of like, it might seem like a big world, but it's really small.
That touched my heart because I'm in the Tindrell family too, so we're all play cousins.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like I knew about the Tindrells just from like family stories, and then we're like, wasn't until we were in high school, and he's like, oh, those are my cousins. I was like, wait. You know what I mean? So it's like those kinds of things, when you understand that I think in the bigger conversation of like what it means to be Black in America, no matter how far we stray, we're still connected. And all of those narratives aren't just pieces of like history to learn about, but that's like part of our identity, right? Yeah. Like it's not just, oh, the Black Panthers that did this thing and like this thing over there. It's like, no. These are our family members who are in these positions. These are people who are actually out in those streets taking those risks. These are people who are activists and organizers and revolutionaries, right?
Yeah.
Like then they have kids and then they go do things. You know what I mean? Like it's not like it's this like hermetically sealed time capsule that we'll never get to touch again. Like it's still very alive if you just know where to look.
I want to acknowledge a couple of things that you said.
Yeah.
Going back to even to your introduction, talking about working through the pain and the trauma and things through your art.
Yeah.
That's exactly what this was.
Yeah.
Right? That's exactly what
The
this
art
whole...
of throwing hands.
Well, yeah, I mean, the art
In
of throwing
chairs.
hands, but even talking about the joking aspect
Yeah.
of it,
Yeah.
right? Like, especially now that the internet is in the palm of everyone's hands, right? You have all these content creators, people cracking jokes, people making songs, people making art. I've seen like phenomenal artwork of people like chairs being like with black Air Force Ones on and like the guy throwing a hat and like
There was the rewrite of the Black National Anthem from Lift Every Voice.
Chair and swing.
Yeah.
I have not seen this.
Oh, you've got
it.
yeah.
I got
Link
you.
me, please.
I got you. But no, it goes back to what you were saying. It's like we process trauma and pain through creativity, and as much of a, like that, like you were saying, as far as like we all come together, we see the people helping out this man. You see the family and the kinship and the camaraderie of it all. But it was still a painful thing to watch, right?
Very
the
much
fact
so.
that it was even a situation that needed to happen, right? To see another person get attacked, all this, that, and the other is still more trauma. And what do we do in uncomfortable situations? We make jokes, right? Like it's how we deal with things. So, and even then, it has been even a further call to action because now you have all these people who are making these jokes, who are making this art, who are putting it out here into the ether, and now you have literal millions of views on it. And this could have just been another blurb on some like MSNBC.com. You know what I mean? Like
World Star
black,
Hip-Hop.
exactly, like black co-captain gets attacked, and it could have
If it
ended
made
there,
it that far.
right? It could have ended there, but
Yeah.
it didn't, and it's because of us using that trauma and making art, making content, doing what we need to do.
I will
to get
say
out
on the
there.
point of the traumatic moment when my dude threw the hat in the air, actually I did feel like a sigh of relief
Yeah.
because a man doesn't get confronted with that and do that unless he knows how to throw hands.
Oh, right.
You know what I
'Cause
mean?
He
I was like-
threw the hat and then he squared up. And
Yeah,
I'm
right.
like,
Yes.
okay, but then
He can
flying
handle
knee
himself.
comes
Right.
out. Yeah.
But I'm just saying in that moment,
He's gonna be all right.
I was like, oh yeah, no, he can throw him.
Yeah,
He can
it's,
throw
going,
him.
it's about to go down. It was definitely it's about to go.
That's
down.
actually that was my takeaway of all the things. I know there's a lot, and this is maybe like the weakest takeaway, but I was like, oh, here's some people who can't fight who met some people who do fight.
right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Because when I saw that lady grab the woman by her hair
And then mink,
and then just like
Not the sound effect, right? Mink, 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 mink.
just mashed
just
her
quick.
face
Yeah,
like a
she
sack
did.
of potatoes,
my
bro.
actual
Gosh.
favorite.
And I was
part-
like, oh, you don't know how to fight. Because this reminded me of every school brawl I ever seen. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, you snatch him by the hair
Yeah.
and you
handle business.
let him know.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? And I was like, oh, you had a bad day. You didn't understand.
My actual favorite part was
weren't ready.
potentially the least violent thing of it all. It was when the dude with the locks, he goes up to the boat and he's pulling on the guardrail of the boat, and the people are like backing away. And finally he realizes, I don't need to pull the boat closer, and he open hand slaps the dude. And
Yes.
It's just like it is. It's,
And you can hear it on the video.
yeah, it's just a broad
That contact
open
moment
Yeah,
was
hand
just
slap. And I was like, you messed around and you found out. Like, this is where we are. And yeah, my heart sank.
I just want to throw this out there to you, Ryan. If you're ever feeling froggy, I would love to see that in a comic book strip.
Oh, I mean, like I said, I got ideas. Like, I mean,
Okay.
like the hand, like I mean, he was like Thanos with the gauntlet. Like he just reached across and smacked fire out of that. It was my favorite part.
So, how do we take this moment and this
Oh, wow.
momentum and do something productive with it? Because it'll die if we let it. It'll die in the sense of, you know, the social structure that we live in. But how do we as a group of people, as Black people, use this moment and make it something meaningful, more meaningful than, you know, the warm fuzzies we get from seeing ourselves being defended and defending others. But what can we do to create some type of meaningful action from this moment?
I think it's already happened.
Go ahead.
I feel like you might have already started
Go
saying
ahead.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Because we, as just human beings, we need role models. And now we have an example of what it looks like to show up for your people when something goes down. You know what I mean? And we parrot the behavior that we're able to see, right? Like if you don't see Black teachers, Black doctors, Black attorneys, you
For
can't
sure.
dream to be those things.
Right.
Right. So seeing is believing. So now we saw a situation where like we saw someone who could have been our dad, our uncle, our brother in trouble. And then you saw 100 people show up to just have this man's back. And then as everyone's kind of protecting each other, I think that in and of itself is the gift, because now we've seen it and now we know what it looks like. And we get to make that choice of like, so is that where the culture is now? Is that who we are? Is that the kind of man I am, that I will show up for people when they need me? Or is there something that I can do? Because now I have the example, you know, and I think that's part of it. It's like, it's easy to talk that smack, because I know a bunch of people, like you were saying before, oh, I would have hit him with a chair.
Right.
Oh, I would have snatched that boat back. I would have swam 100 miles to catch these, you know, like whatever, right? But now we've actually seen it and what it looks like, and that kind of like dedication, that kind of duty, that kind of honor. And so I think in and of itself, the example sets the tone. So I think the shift is already there. We've now seen it, and now we believe it. And I just think that there's something in the air of just like, yeah. So if you mess with us, like we will have each other's back.
Yeah.
You know.
I agree with that. And then for me though, in addition, we need to see the thing through. And that kind of goes back to what I'm saying, like shout out proper policing, because at this point too, we need to pay attention to the system, right? Like we've been conditioned to think, due to how things are, like the actual reality that is living in America, that the system is not for us.
Right.
It was not built for us. And we've had to work around it, because going through it is what's led directly to school to prison pipelines, et cetera, et cetera.
And death.
And death, absolutely. But now we need to actually monitor the system. And I think, again, shout out to Fannie Willis, because like this is somebody who is in the system, who is using it, and is now shining a light on the people who the system was built for, and navigating around how to actually use it against them. And so when you're looking at like the perpetrators, like the boat people, they're the ones who actually did get arrested. I mean, Chair Guy did too, but he's good. He got a bail fund. He's all right. Unks are going to be okay. But like the other people, like there are these mugshots out there now, and they're potentially facing hate crimes, because it's like you see that they're the ones who initiated it. They're the ones who caused the problems. They're the ones who escalated it. And unless we actually pay attention and see this thing through, it's going to be just like so many other people where we have to remember to say their names, because they just kind of go to the wayside. Like, the reality is that further Black and brown trauma is going to happen.
Yeah.
We cannot forget where we are currently, and we have to see this thing through to the end. Otherwise, these people are going to be right back to owning their little corner store, following Black kids around the store, checking backpacks and things like that. And nothing's going to be learned from it unless we actually see this through till the end.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, and both of you. And to your point, Madison, too, about, we see an example now. We have this context with which we can draw in case we are witnesses or we're bystanders. We can be stander-uppers or however you want to say it. I often think about Dr. Greg Carr from Howard University, who reminded his audience and his students that, this is not an exception. This incident of resistance and standing up to bullies or whatnot is not an exception in Black history. It is actually the standard. It's the rule. It's part of what he calls an unbroken genealogy over time of resistance.
Oh,
and
I love that phrase.
Yeah. And I think it's more of us preserving our collective memory and understanding our historical context, because this isn't new.
Right.
Standing up and saying, no, we're not going to take this. It's not going to be like, no, I'm a human being. This is not a new phenomenon. I think part of what this highlights for me is the fact that we need to teach ourselves and our kids about this unbroken genealogy of resistance, which is why I'd like to stop calling it the Montgomery Brawl and call it the Riverfront resistance.
Ooh,
Love it.
I like that. I like that.
Love it.
Yeah.
Another one I heard that I was a big fan of, because it happened on August 5th, was Cinco de Negro.
Wow.
Shout out our brown brethren as well, because
Cinco de Negro.
Yeah.
De Negro.
De Negro. Yeah.
We got to say it right if we're going to say it.
That's right.
You touch on a thing though about like the conditioning of like from the standpoint of like what privilege and that kind of thing. And looking at it from like that perspective of the pontooners,
Yeah.
Is like shout out to my Texans. You can see it, like they're out there just raising a little hell, having some fun, having some drinks on the river, and it's like, but it also exists inside of that bubble, right? Like when the riverboat tells them to move, they feel empowered to just flip them off and keep having a good time.
Tell me what to do.
Right?
Yeah, because
exactly.
I'm an American.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. Like
freedom.
Exactly. Exactly. Because this was a white man telling them to move their boat, and so like there is that piece of it that isn't immediately racial.
Right.
It's that I'm expressing my freedom. I'm having a good time. I'm here with my family, and plus drinks, plus sun drunk, all these things. But I think there's that piece of cultured privilege to think that, like, I don't need to move my pontoon 3 feet to make room for a boat.
Right.
I don't need to do that. That's your problem. And then, where then I think, the socialized racism in a passive way is like, oh, there's a black man touching my boat.
Right.
Confrontation.
What are you doing around here, boy?
Literally,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And then when that man's friends and family see that he's in a scuffle with a big scary Negro, they're going to run to his aid because of how they've been socialized to see blackness as a threat. Well, we don't want Pop to, like get hurt because they're a scary people.
Yeah.
All fueled by, and I'm speculating, but I would imagine it fueled by the Trump rally that happened the week before.
I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say that directly, but the culture around it.
I'm going to say
right. I absolutely agree with the sentiment. Like the culture around it, like people are feeling really emboldened, and
I don't think it's boldness. I think it's fear. They're worried that they're about to lose everything that they're familiar.
Yeah, but that's where that boldness comes from. Is like fighting back for what they think is rightfully theirs, like what they've been conditioned to think is rightfully theirs, and now all of a sudden it's like, well, what are we going to do about it? We can't just lay down and let this happen to us.
Wow, yeah.
So I absolutely agree that it comes from a place of fear, but that boldness, like, it's kind of where we've been for 400 years, right? like, I'm not going to take this trash anymore. I got to stand up and do something about it, right? So,
but see, that's exactly it. Then when you say it that way, isn't there a sense of like camaraderie just pointed at each other instead of like in the same direction, right? You know what I mean? Because somebody was gonna move that day.
Yeah, that's America, though.
Ain't gonna be me.
That's when you're going
it's
back
America,
to the history.
and I think it's the nature of struggle.
Yeah.
It's the nature of the struggle for freedom, which is going to be one of my book recommendations.
Hey.
But part of struggling for anything is that agitation and knowing that you never really arrive. You just pass the baton to let someone else continue that struggle when you can't do it anymore.
Right.
So, we never really arrive at freedom. We just are in a constant pursuit of it.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
That's true. That's real.
That's as a father, those are conversations that we've been having. It's just the point of like, you can't take these things for granted. That's like understanding, like not to put pressure on the kids in that kind of way, but there's a pressure. That like, you have to pick up the charge and carry the banner forward a little bit further, because the second that you take it for granted is when you start to backslide. And I think we've seen that over the last 15-ish years, where it's like there's a generation that feels, everything was taken care of. We've got this. It's on lock. Yeah. We've got it figured out. Let me ask you this. When was the last time we actually had an amendment to our Constitution?
Oh, geez.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. At some point, we got to a point where we thought, we don't need to keep working on this thing, even though, like the whole point is to keep perfecting this union, or whatever that phrase is, right? So the thing is, it's like this understanding of like, there has to be that conversation of how to keep that charge moving forward. Because I think, once you take a breath, it's when the opposition or that adversary starts to make its ground. Not to be like overly political, but you talk about like what's been going on with reproductive rights, the progress that we had made in same-sex relationships and marriage equality. All that stuff is now suddenly like on the chopping block.
It's because we got complacent.
And that's exactly it, right? It's like, okay, we did it. Cool. High five. Pat on the back. And then it's like, well, once there's a little space, not understanding that the other side has been...
The ops don't sleep.
Right. They've been
do not
strategizing
sleep.
for 50
They're on
years.
Ambien, just
waiting
like
50 years for you to stumble
Roseanne Barr.
and go, now here's our moment. You know, I think that's also part of that. What is in the air is that pressure of these are death throes, at least the way I'm reading them.
Right.
Because certain things are being phased out of our culture and our society, I think for the better, there's that thing of like, but we're losing what we understand as normalcy and as the status quo. Thus, the panic of like, well, that means we need to start changing laws, redistricting, and drawing new lines and all these kinds of things to protect whatever we have left.
We're actively witnessing the fall of an empire right now.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
What a time to be alive. I think I would love to have you guys come back because we have so much more to talk about. Because I got so many different ideas about, you know, what you're saying, Madison, about, you know, all of the laws and rules and policies that have been in place for so long that have been upended now. And for me, and I'm thinking in terms of it's deeper than just that topical argument of reproductive rights.
Right.
It's about jurisdiction as well. But that's something we got to get into it later. Right. We got to get into it later.
Yeah.
Promise me you'll both come back, please.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's been a pleasure. Before we go.
Just ask and I'm here.
Okay, you got it. I'm going to be asking real soon. Before we wrap it up today, I want to know what you're reading because I have this thing now where we do book recommendations. So what are you reading? What do you recommend for the listeners of Black and Privilege to check out?
Okay. Well, for me currently, and getting back into this whole artistic journey for me, like they said, I'm an illustrator and whatnot. I've been doing a lot of comic reading recently, and specifically, I've been reading a lot of DC comics, Batman, Superman, etc. Has revived the Milestone Universe. And if you're unfamiliar with the Milestone Universe, it was created by a Black comic creator by the name of Dwayne McDuffie, rest in peace, in the 90s. And he did the thing where they're always saying, like, well, why race swap when you can go out and make your own characters? And Dwayne McDuffie did this exact thing. Icon Hardware, which is like Black Superman and Iron Man. Static, if you remember the Static Shock cartoon, he's the creator of these characters. And
awesome.
DC has now revived them. And I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm supporting these products with these Black faces in it so they continue to make it. Because I can now show this to my kids and be like, hey, check it out. There's more out there than just Batman and Superman. So that's a lot
amazing.
of what I've been reading.
Wow.
Yeah. And then one of my favorite books, I'm rereading it currently. It's called Lamb, or The Gospel According to Biff. It is by an author by the name of Christopher Moore, and it's actually the untold story of Jesus from the age of 7 until he became the Messiah at like 30. It's what he was doing in those missing years.
Those missing years where we don't see him in the Bible.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
And it's definitely like satirical. It's funny, but there's definitely some deeper stuff into it. And it's told by his best friend Levi, which was like the missing apostle. He's the one that was written out of the book, but he traveled with him on all his journeys. So it does give him some really interesting perspective as far as like how you could go from being a child, basically not knowing your father, into growing into being what's supposed to be the savior of mankind. So yeah, that one's definitely.
That's dope. Thank you, Ryan. Okay, we're gonna put that in the show notes. Madison, what about you? What are you reading?
I actually brought a prop. This is my next, as I'm picking this up because I just got this one. This is Lucas Meek, The Efficient Hustle. I met Lucas just a few weeks ago. He is a production manager, and he was on, he does music tours, and he's been all over the world, and he's worked with all these big acts, and he wrote a book not just to like learn how to do the production manager thing and how to tour, but how those touring lessons also can affect your life and your business.
Wow.
Because these things are skill. These are life skills, right? We might apply them to a trade, but like being able to communicate directly and efficiently,
for sure,
is good in your life, right?
Yeah. You got to be able to.
Accountability matters in your life. We had just come back from Japan. We did a 3-week tour, and that was a great experience. But it was another realization of
Can I see your book?
Yeah, of course. It's like when you step into a bigger world, what all you don't know. You know what I mean? It's like you think you got it, and at the certain level you do, and then you move up to the next thing and you realize I have to start over and learn a whole new set of skills. So weirdly, maybe it's serendipity or kismet or whatever. He was doing a talk. He gifted me a copy of his book. We exchanged information, and so it was like cool to like meet this guy and talk with him, but also like now I get to like pick his brain directly, you know, and learn a little bit more about my industry and how to be better at like tour management and that kind of thing, so we can do this again, but do it better. Build a better machine, but
Wonderful.
Also hopefully I'll be a better man on the other side of it as well. You know what I mean?
Awesome.
Like,
I've never heard of these books, and so I'm really excited to share these with the audience of Black and Privileged in America podcast. So Ryan, you said the Milestone Universe is a DC comic being revived by Dwayne McDuffie.
Dwayne McDuffie is the original creator. He passed away, and so DC is now reviving the characters. They've got a new line. Again, shout out the artist Nicholas Draper Ivy. I've been following him for a while. He actually is the designer who created the Black Panther album cover, like the album cover, which was just like the necklace on the black background. And that got him noticed and got him the job at DC. So he's doing all the art for like the Static line and things like that. And I'd been following him for years just as an artist that I respect. Like his work had been great. So it's been cool to see him grow into that role and kind of take that part over. And then like they're giving, like now the head of DC is Jim Lee, who's an Asian American man, started off as an artist, and now he's the head of DC, and so he's giving voice to other Black and brown and minority creators. So it's Black writers and artists and stuff that are working on these books as well. So again, it's just me putting my money where my mouth is. Like I want to see more of this, so I'm going to support it.
And that's, I think, what we have to do. We have to be willing to put our money where our mouth is. The other book you recommended was The Lamb. Lamb, the Gospel According to Biff.
Yep, Biff, Biff, and it's the untold story of the Christ, and which again I think is one of my favorites too, because grew up in church, and then as I became an adult, I grew away from it, and a lot of it was because of the fact that I couldn't get questions answered, and so even in like a satirical viewpoint, I love the fact that somebody was willing to tackle those questions. So that's definitely like a top 5 book for me.
What if Jesus learned kung fu?
Right. What happened? He's a wizard, bro. Like, how did he learn these tricks? And
did he wear a black baseball cap?
You'll have to read the book and see.
Where did that cap even go?
He has one now.
He has one now. And then Madison, your book recommendation is The Efficient Hustle, Lessons on Being a Professional Production Manager I Learned While Touring the World with a Pop Star by Lucas Meek.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Here's your book back. I might take it if I don't give it back now.
Thank you.
My book recommendation is Freedom is a Constant Struggle by a daughter of Alabama from the city of Birmingham, Angela Yvonne Davis. How can our audience follow the two of you? Where can we find you on social media? How can we keep up with what you're doing?
You want to go first?
Sure. I will be reviving the Instagram. So that's, it's on there right now, but the only recent things, I got a dog a few months ago, so it's a couple pictures of him. But you'll be able to see, he's black and beautiful too. Chunky, his name is Jay Duncan Pawsworth. But no, you can find me on Instagram at @thatguy_Rye_IG. And then if you do want to hear my hot takes, they are still on Twitter. I'm refusing to call it that other thing because fuck Elon Musk, excuse my language, but it is what it is. But you can find me there at @thatguy_Rye. Hot takes and drawings abound.
You can find me on Instagram at Emperor Madison Ray, all one word. Check it out on Facebook, Instagram. You can find our backlogged episodes of Drinks with Friends on any podcasting platform you like. I still recommend Spotify because it's just so easy to use. But of course, check out my band as well, The Finesse. You can check out our website, thefinessemusic.com. For tour dates, we're actually going to be pushing a new vinyl for the holidays. So check that out if you're into supporting Black art. Check it out. Support your boy. Support the band.
Love it. Thank you both for being here. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's been fun. This is Abena Sankofa Imhotep, and this has been another episode of Black and Privileged in America podcast presented by AmplifiedDSM.com. Today, we talked with Madison Ray and Ryan-Christopher about the Montgomery Brawl, or as I've reframed it, the Riverfront resistance. About that and what it means to the culture and what it could mean to our future. Check out today's show notes to follow Ryan-Christopher and Madison Ray, as well as to get those book recommendations and to learn how to follow these wonderful, amazing humans. Also, please visit our website at www.amplifiedsm.com and my website at www.abenasankofa.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time.
This podcast is brought to you by Infinite Resources, a local staffing agency connecting diverse job candidates in central Iowa companies.